That's the VPGE wheel for professional development, and what you're doing today at Quick Bytes is one aspect of that program. If you're unfamiliar with that diagram, go to the VPGE, find it, click where it says Learn More. VPGE does a whole bunch of stuff that they don't do in your lab, that your advisor is probably not doing, and for heaven's sakes, get the full value of your Stanford time, particularly PhDs. It's really easy to wake up, oh, I'm a 6th year, oh, I'm getting my committee, oh, I guess I'm done, I forgot to do all that other stuff. You really want to avail yourself of that. Trust me, better stuff for free will never come your way. Again, free is good. So just an unabashed plug for VPGE. We doing okay? Great. All right. So just really, who is this old white guy? So yes, 1,000 years ago, before many of you were born, I was the world's first mouse product manager in 1979. I was a co-founder of Electronic Arts. That's 3 logos ago. This is like 30 years ago. But those are the things people keep putting in my resume because they're bright and shiny. But I'm really doing this Design Your Life thing. Starting in 2007, I came over and had lunch with Bill Burnett, who just took this newly invented job called the Executive Director of the Design Program at Stanford University. Why did they do that? Because David Kelly, who was the head of the design program, was preoccupied with running IDEO and inventing this thing called the D.school, the Hasso-Plattner Institute for Design at Stanford, aka the D.school. So we have 2 different design entities. They're in the same building over in the D.school building, 550. The Design Institute, which is 10 years old, and the design program, which is 55 years old. So Stanford started reinventing how we think about design back in the early 60s. We'll tell you about that in a minute. And we're doing this at the GSB. We're doing this all over the place. So this approach we have to designing your life and your career is kind of making its way across the campus. And that's what we do in this organization called the D-Life Lab. So the D-Life Lab, or the Life Design Lab, what is our job? Our job is to apply the innovation principles of design thinking to the wicked problem of designing your life at or after college. Which sounds pedagogically correct. What's that really mean? What that really means, we're the guys that teach the courses to help you figure out what you want to be when you grow up. And when we say it that way, everybody goes, ooh, can I take the class? Even the recently former dean of engineering, Jim Plummer, when describes, so what is it really you guys are doing over there? And we describe it, he goes, ooh, can I take the class? And when the 67-year-old dean of the #1 engineering school on the planet says, I need to take the class, everybody needs to take the class. Because you're never done answering this question. That's, in fact, a reframe. There is no such thing as growing up. We've been doing, we just finished our 7th of 16 mini workshops for Stanford Alumni Associations around the world. 350,000 Stanford alumni all over the place. And the university has said to Bill and Dave, this is Bill here, why don't you guys go talk to all the alumni about this life stuff? And we've been having a great time. And trust me, these are old people. So right in the front in Manhattan, 337 people in a big room in Manhattan. Front and center is Constance from the class of 50. Do the math. She's 87 years old, dressed to the nines, looks like $1 million, and so I'm thinking, and she's like, let's go. Let's design the rest of my life, And we get to the Odyssey plan exercise, which we're not going to do here today, and she gets stuck. Okay, she gets stuck. She's 87. What do you want? Come on. So I kneel down and go, so Constance, can I help you? Having some trouble? She goes, no. I just have so many interests, I don't know where to start. Okay? So that's this question. And what are you going to be next as you continue growing? Would be a better way to put that. So that's what we're really about. And design thinking is the engine whereby we do that. How many of you have done a design thinking boot camp? Have been to the D.school at all? Okay, who's heard of design thinking? And they told you it was cool, right? Okay, yeah. So it's very important. It's cool. And it's a big part of the brand at Stanford. So what is this thing? What is design thinking? The best way to understand it is in contrast to other ways of thinking and the places that it belongs. And the #1 place it belongs is in resolving wicked problems. Wicked problems are, actually that's a technical term, invented by urban planners at Berkeley, not a bad school, back in '76. The 10 attributes of a wicked problem, you can look that up if you want, Rattel and somebody. And then people thought 10 was too many, so there's a bunch of articles about the 6 attributes of a wicked problem. You can pick your list. And the attributes of a wicked problem most notable are, the success criteria change constantly. You won't know if you've got a solution until you actually create it. Once it's created, you can never reuse it again. So it's a constantly moving environment. What it really is a human problem. Human problems like education, life, and vocational wayfinding, figuring out what to do with yourself. Because we're trying to intersect this thing called the future we've never been in with people we haven't met yet, and you're trying to, quote, plan it. So how does that actually work? Well, in design thinking, compared to other forms of thinking, there's a lot of good ways to think around it. We even have a series in the undergraduate program called Ways of Thinking and Doing. So one way of thinking is engineering thinking. If a number of people in the room have engineering degrees or getting even more of them. I have 2 myself. And that's a BS, by the way, it's a BS. Very important. In engineering, we solve our way forward because engineering solves tame problems. Tame problems are well-bounded, well-behaved problems that will act tomorrow like they act today. So if you build the Brooklyn Bridge again, it will stand up again. You do the exact same thing you did last time, putting a person on the moon, it will work again. The bridge doesn't wake up and the next day and go, I'm just not feeling it today. I think I'm going to fall down. It's not working for me. But in wicked problems, they do stuff like that. So engineers are great when you have enough information and equations and tools to solve your way forward. You can solve your, I love doing engineering. I love solving stuff. I deal with messy, wicked problems almost all the time nowadays. So on the weekend, my favorite thing to do is find something that's broken and fix it, because it will stay fixed. It's a tame problem. Business people, I got one MBA in the room, and a bunch of you are going to be in the marketplace anyway. So we optimize our way forward. In the business world, you do not ever solve anything. Your channel is never frictionless enough. Your brand is never strong enough. Your market share is never big enough. Your profitability is never high enough. Your customer never loves you enough. You're never done. But you can optimize, and increasingly in the world of big data, we can do it quantitatively, which makes it feel very scientific. So we optimize our way forward. And then in research, we've got some researchers here, and maybe getting a PhD. All the PhDs. We're going to analyze our way forward and come up with an hypothesis, go top down, bound the thing appropriately, ask a whole bunch of questions, and the big prize at the end of the analytical process, if you do it right, is you came up with a question to which no one in the world has an answer except you. And if you get one of those, we give you a PhD as a prize for finding that. That's the way the thing actually works. And so analysis is really, really terrific. Research is fabulous. It does a really good job of solving certain kinds of analytical problems. But none of these things will solve wicked problems. And in wicked problems, we build our way forward. We say in design, we build to think. We're action-minded. We prototype, not plan. It's bottom-up, not top-down. And one researcher said, so you guys actually don't even create the hypothesis till after you've done the initial situation analysis. We go, right. And they go, well, that's cheating. That will always work. We go, yeah, you figured it out. So that's what design thinking wants to do. And so what are the elements? 2 elements to design thinking, very briefly, the 5-step process and the 5 mindsets. The 5 steps are empathy, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Empathize. You start with not what do we do, or how do we fix this, or how do we solve it, or where do we go? None of those questions. We start with what's going on. We already know that we don't know. So we do the deep dive on the ethnography, the need finding, because we have to do problem finding before we do problem solving. Most often, the reason things don't work out is you solve the wrong problem. So let's make sure we're solving the right problem. Then once we do that, we can define a point of view, what the criteria are we're going after, and now it's time to ideate, have lots of ideas. We're well known for brainstorming and mind mapping and all kinds of ways to have lots of ideas, the wild ideas. Many of you think that brainstorming is whatever happened just before the wall was covered with Post-it notes, somebody took a picture on an iPhone, and then ignored it for the rest of their lives. Paid no attention to it whatsoever. That is not brainstorming, that is Post-it wastage. Post-it wastage is very popular. It has nothing to do with real brainstorming. So, come on and take a boot camp. Let us help you understand how to take that wall of Post-its and turn it into something. We're not going to do that today either, but ideation is very important. And then the critical step, prototyping. Come out and prototype. And a prototype in design is not at all the same thing as a prototype in engineering. An engineering prototype, and I love them, is to, now we've got the specifications. We want this thing to work. Does it actually work the way we thought it was going to? Can we verify the design, verify the engineering solution? That's an engineering prototype. It's a test. In design, because we're trying to intersect this experience nobody's ever had before, right? Even a million years ago when I was designing the mouse, the engineers made sure that the Schmidt triggers, the LED Schmidt triggers, which were a brand new technology at the time, worked properly to track the XY coordinates and could do a real-time capability of screen rendering, as simple as that now seems in retrospect. So that's an engineering problem, but do you have 1 or 2 buttons, and does it make a noise when you click or not? That's a human problem. What are these people like? What's the experience? What's the HCI, we now call it, the human computer interface experience going to be? You only get that empirically. So you use prototypes in order to jump into the future you're not in yet, and try to have experiences to give you feedback so you can do the right thing that really work for people. And you do that again and again until you find the one that really works, and now you implement. So that's the design process. It's done from a point of view that starts with acceptance. That's an intrinsic. There's a great big bubble over the grad loft in the design group over here. I mean, just right there, actually, that says, you are here. Some of you may have walked through there and seen that great big red bubble that says, you are here. Just to remind our grad students, you always start exactly where you are. If you're arguing with your problem, you can't have a solution. You can't solve a problem you're not willing to have. We find in life design, very often people don't like their problem. And so sometimes your problem isn't your problem, it's your problem with your problem, and that's a problem. So if you've got a problem with your problem, come upstairs. We should talk about that. But what you really want to solve is the real problem. Now the mindsets are these, which really answer the question, gee, in this situation, what would a designer do? How would a designer think? And a designer would think first with curiosity. It's always not like, hey, what's going on here? It's like, woo, what's going on here? There's something interesting. We call it leaning into the potential pursuit of latent wonderfulness. There's latent wonderfulness in front of you all the time. We're going to come back to that. And so we always are coming from curiosity. There's something we want to learn here. We always know we don't know what we're doing. Designers are always working on a problem that has never been solved before. And we want to do that, usually ending up with a reframing. We're going to reframe. It's not about making a new coffee cup. It's about changing the coffee experience. There's a reframing about what we're really doing. As we do that step by step, we want to be mindful of our process, not get either ahead of or behind ourselves. We don't want to get stuck in the research and the ethnography, which is kind of fun, just observing forever. We don't want to leap ahead and come to closure before we know what we're doing. So there's an artfulness to that. Radical collaboration really just means talking to people who are not like you. We live in a world right now where you can dial in whatever channel of confirmation bias you would like. You can be sure that you talk to, read, are connected to, get spammed by only the people that already agree with you. That's not collaboration. That's just reinforcement. So we want to make sure we're getting points of view. And lastly, do more than think, bias toward action. When in doubt, do something. Which turns into, from a life design point of view, that you're not developing a mouse, you're developing a new user interface or an application, developing even a new curriculum is one thing, developing a life is another. I'm giving you all this context to sort of drop in this one tool you're going to get today. So we also put these layers above them. So there's the meaning-making layer above the design thing. This is about your life, right? So does it work for me? Is it meaningful to me? What's my point of view? And then how do I get there? How do you know when you know, How do you know? How do you come up with decision making? How do you come up with a support group that can really assist you in figuring out which version of you want to actually live into next? So it's the support process, which is personal practices to help you get clearer on your own voice, decision making and discernment processes, mentors, and community. What's the role of all those things? So that's the framework. If you come to the 20-hour, 10-week class, or in the summer, there's the SGSI version hosted by VPGE. We do the 20 hours in 5 days, so it's 5 half days. And we have just begun doing one-day workshops. So you may watch out for this. So some people we have heard don't have time for the big class, but really would like to do this thing in more than just an hour. And so we've come up with an 8-hour intensive one-day workshop. And we're offering that both to undergrads and to grad students. We don't have any grad workshops this fall, but we are going to have some in the winter and the spring, so watch out for that. If you want to give us a Saturday, we will give you like a fabulous toolkit. Okay, so now what do you get? If you take that class, you get all this stuff. That's the syllabus right there. And it's, comes in colors and everything. So it's, come on down. Okay, let's do enough. That's overview. That's what's the Life Design Lab's job. That's who are these people? What do they do? What do you mean life design? And inside of that, here's one quick tool for you in a quick bite. I'm going to give you a quick bite tool. Focusing on curiosity and bias toward action to solve the iceberg problem. What's the iceberg problem, Dave? I'm so glad you asked. Okay. So the problem is that 80% of all jobs are never listed. If you apply to everything, you left 4 out of 5 on the table. Right? How many of you have a friend who goes, I've been sending out resumes. I've applied to everything. Like hundreds of, nothing. I'm getting nothing back. Knows somebody who's had that experience? Right. Yeah, the return rate on going after those public opportunities is like, 0.2%. The numbers suck. Okay, the return rates are incredibly bad. So how do you find the rest of those? Now, by the way, that number varies really substantially by domain. If you're looking at, tenure track positions in public universities, by law, they have to be listed. You can see them, but that doesn't mean people aren't already wiring their relationship before it got listed. So with this problem, what do? It's made worse, particularly for grad students who have alternate choices, and especially PhDs who are thinking about this domains thing, because there's the academy. I can go that route. or I can go into the for-profit marketplace, I can go to the nonprofit, the government sector, medicine, there's a lot, religion, law, all kinds of places. And each one of these domains, these sub-chunks of the human experience, are run with a whole bunch of different attributes. They all have different purposes, power-based systems, decision-making orientations, networks, influence engines. And many of you are thinking about a life in more than one domain. How many of you are thinking, when you think about where you want to go with your life, there's more than one domain of human operation that you find interesting and attractive? Cool, okay. Now here's another thing. If I told you one thing I do know about the future, because in addition to being tall and old and talking really fast, I have certain clairvoyance capabilities, and I do know something about the future that you would like to know, which is, if I told you, you are not only going to have lots of jobs, you already knew that, you're going to have multiple careers. If you were a movie production house, you come out of school and you do, the sci-fi action flick, and then 10 years later, 7 years later, you jump over and you do the black and white film noir, revisit thing, followed by the Japanese anime inspired thing. Like totally different. If I told you that was true, this is my fourth career. Actually, it looks like I'm fifth now because as I checked in through customs in London as part of this book tour, they said, why are you here? I said, well, we're actually launching a book. And he goes, oh, occupation author. And I went, ooh, okay, that's 5, So if you knew you're going to have 3 or 4 bona fide card-carrying careers, how many of you would say, that actually affects the way I think today? If I knew I could have multiple careers, it affects the way I'm thinking about the first one, right? It deserves to. That is going to happen. You're mostly going to be really healthy people. A bunch of you are going to see 100. Most of you are going to work for 70 years. Just hold that for a second, like, whoa. Okay? So you got a ways to go. We want this to be interesting. Now, if we're going to do that, and these opportunities and these different domains are not immediately available to us the way we would like them to be, what are we going to do? So we're going to do one thing, and this is, by the way, of all the stuff we teach, of all the tools and ideas, and in the courses we say, look, there's only 2 things in the course. There's ideas, different ways of thinking, what we call reframes, and there are tools, stuff you can do. And after you take the course, you'll take the dozen or 2 ideas we give you and the dozen or 2 tools we give you, and you'll pick off the top 20% you think have merit for you. And if you then go and think with those ideas and act with those tools as opposed to when you were not, you're better off. That's it. That's the big promise. Now against that, this tool is unequivocally, in terms of student feedback on our observation, the number 1 power tool. So this tool has had more impact on more lives than anything else we've done. And it's been doing that for a long, long time, long before us. So trust me, because I know I'm older than you, this works. Okay, now, so the problem is it's time to go unicorn hunting. We're trying to find that thing you can't see and maybe you're not even sure exists. So how do you do that? Well, here's how it works. So if this problem is true, that a whole bunch of the opportunities, whether it's 80 or 50, but there's a bunch of stuff going on you can't see, what are you going to do? So here's this domain you're trying to penetrate. Whether it's the academy, or it's the marketplace, it's the NSA, whatever it is, then that one has like guns around it. But so you're out here, and you're looking in and you see these 2 opportunities. And that's what you see. Except you can't see all these other opportunities inside because they're invisible to you. Now how it really works is what's going on in there is not opportunities. What's going on in there is people, and those people hang out with each other in the same organization or in competitive organizations or in contractor relationships. It's a community. Life is just a conversation. And in that conversation, opportunities are generated. Things to do happen. Years ago, a consultant named Tom Peters said, there really are no companies, there really are no organizations in the world. There are just groups of people working on projects at the same time. And that's really true. It's a really fair way to look at it. And in addition to all that stuff inside, there's the 2 that are posted on the outside of the window that you can see. And you can see those. And that's all you can see. And of course, so can everybody else. So it gets a little crowded there. Who's experienced that crowding at the visible opportunity, sort of bumping into people? Anybody go to the career fair the other day? We had a career fair, right? Standing in line to be rejected, that's really great. Okay, I'm not dissing career fairs. We do a whole reframe on how to subterfuge the career fair and pull a different result off. different idea. So I'm in this situation, what am I going to do? I want to get inside. I want to crack this thing. You can't crack this thing. You can only join this thing, and the way you join it is person to person. So if I can connect to that person can connect me to this environment where these other things pop up. And as I'm talking to this person, he or she knows about that opportunity, and they know these other people, and those people know those people, and those people know about these other things, and that's where these other opportunities come up, including the ones that I think are kind of cool. And then there's this really great thing that happens sometimes when I'm talking to this woman over here at 2 o'clock, something actually got created live in front of me. An opportunity comes into existence because of the conversation you are in. If you had not come today, that opportunity would not have happened. Some of you have probably already experienced this. You're sitting there talking, let's call her Helen, and say, hey, Helen, we're having this conversation, and she goes, gosh, Dave, this is a really interesting conversation. Have you ever thought about joining an organization like this? Well, gosh, Helen, that's an interesting thing you bring up. I don't know. What do you think? And she says, well, gosh, hey, Harry, come over here. You know that rec we've got, for the thing in Boston, that really doesn't make any sense. Because if we look at it this way, Dave's been talking about this thing, what if we could repurpose that rec, right? What if we actually did this thing, where we change the model, and we add this other research component to it? Wouldn't that be interesting? Harry goes, yeah, I never knew why we didn't do that in the first place. Well, could we talk to Dave about that? And suddenly, somebody's writing a requisition with your name on it. Who's experienced that? Anybody actually have that happen in front of them? Yeah, happens all the time. Now, if that's what's the reality, you got to be in the conversation. So how do you crack this conversation? We know of exactly one way to do it. Some of you won't like this. It's extrovert biased, okay? It's networking to obtain information interviews in order to discover and create opportunities. That's the power tool I was talking about. So let's talk about what that means. So where this fits, this information interview, or we sometimes call the life design interview, is the triple threat. So a information interview, who's heard that term, information interview? You've heard of it before? Okay. Keep your hand up if you're pretty sure you know what it means, because I'm going to quiz you in a minute. There will be a test. So it's a tool for learning and research. It's a great way to empathize, understand this world. What's it really like to work in a government research lab or what have you. It's a tool for discernment. If you do this right, as opposed to wrong, and I'll clarify that, you're going to get full existential value out of whether or not is this my tribe, do I really want to belong here? You're not going to just get stuck in the shallow end of the information interview and merely get information. And lastly, it's actually a mini prototype. It's a mini prototype. It's really fast. It's really efficient. So what exactly is it? The key thing is that it is not a job interview. The most important thing about an information interview is that it is a conversation. It is not a job interview. In fact, the fact that the terminology which precedes us of, quote, information interview is around is a disaster, because the word interview invariably defaults in most minds to mean a job interview. So if many of you who raised your hand and said, yes, I've heard the phrase, I know what it means, I'm really clear on this, Dave, please speed up, that's the boring part. The key thing is you're not asking for a job, which means if you are misperceived during an information interview as having a job interview, it is a disaster and you will fail miserably. Why? Those of you who understand are going, yeah, of course, absolutely. It's critical that they don't misunderstand I'm looking for a job. Because if they thought I was looking for a job, the information interview has been ruined. It's been ruined. Right? Why? Come on, there are 20 hands up so I understand what it is. They start judging you. Why do they start judging you? They want to know whether or not they're going to hire you, right? They're going to be making a decision soon. This is a decisive situation. Thought?
I think it becomes less about you finding out what it's like, what I suppose, the opportunities that exist, that it becomes, okay, it's an assessment.
It becomes an assessment. Rather than you learning about them, it becomes a pattern match. How well do you fit us and that kind of thing. Yeah? Sometimes they don't have a job opening and it gets awkward. Actually, sometimes they don't have a job opening and never even gets to awkward, right? If you call me on the phone and I answer, they go, hi, this is Dave. And you go, hello, this is Anna. I go, well, hi, Anna, what's up? And then she goes, well, I'm looking for a job. Okay, so now what I know, her name is Anna, and she's looking for a job. What's the first thing on my mind? Very first thing on my mind. Very first thing on any working person's mind who's asked that question. Every time. What is it? What do I want to know? As soon as Anna says she's looking for a job. Yes? What's that? Yes, bing, 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 bing. Do I have an opening? Now, by the way, a smart group of people, I guess we're at Stanford today. That's great. Very often people say, well, do I fit? Do you think I'm a good person? Would I match with the culture? It's very normal for people to think the first thing on somebody else's mind is you. Not at all. If I think you're looking for a job, the very first thing on my mind is me, and do I have one? So that contact reject you get, hi, I'm looking for a job. Oh, no, goodbye. Let me reframe that for you. That was just an act of incredible kindness. They do that because they're so concerned about you. See, you're looking for a job, you need something. What's your name?
Danny.
Annie? Danny. So Danny, you're looking for a job. That means you're unemployed, that means you're broke, that means you're nervous, that means, life is terrible. I've got a Stanford degree, nobody loves me. This is a really difficult situation. And you're looking for a job, and I can't do you any good. That thing you need, I don't have it. The only thing I can do for you, Danny, is free you to go off and do something that's useful. So goodbye, go away, no, don't not waste your time with me. Now, most people do it really ham-fisted, okay? They do a really, really sucky job of rejecting you. They don't do it in a nice, kind, gosh, I'd love to help you, sweetheart, but I just can't. Your time is a precious thing. Go to people who have money and openings who can help you. I can't help you. They never say it that way. They just go, no. As people have not been trained to reject very well. But that's what's on their mind. So the critical thing about an information interview is, that it is looking for the story. This is really weird, but the very best way to get the job is not ask for the job, it's ask for the story. Sounds like this. So hey, my name's Leanne. Joe Chow gave me your name and never said you're the person I really need to talk to. I'm a Stanford grad researching a project. I'd like the chance to hear more about your work experience and your organization's activity. So, can I buy you a cup of coffee for about 30 minutes at a time convenient to you to talk about your work and career? I would love to have a chance to learn from your experience and insights. Now, what do they really hear? What they really hear is, Joe Chow, grad student, coffee, 30, talk about you. See, I've done the Google research, and it turns out, Danny, you are the most interesting person in the world, and so you and I now have a shared interest. You think you're really cool, I think you're really cool. We should get together and share that common ground. Now, when we say, you make this ask, and particularly a Joe Chow that somebody knows is how you got there, we'll get to that in a minute, then your chance of this working is about 70%. That's sort of our anecdotal empirical evidence. About 7 out of 10 times this works. 2 of the 3 times it doesn't, they're going, oh gosh, I'd love to, but I'm doing this book launch, I got to run off to the UK, I can't. Just can't do it. Love to do it, just can't do it. And 1 out of 10 is a jerk and just, don't bother me. I don't talk to people like you. So don't worry about it. But the hit rate is much higher. If you're doing the cold call in the job interview, your hit rate's about 0.5%. So that's a much better deal. And when you do it, this is all pretty obvious. You can read. How many of you have had these kind of conversations? You ask for 30. How long do they go? As long as the person has, yeah. They will very often go 60, 90 minutes long. Now, if you do it by phone, they'll go 30 because they'll put something right behind it. But it's very, very common. Again, don't ask for more than 30 at a time convenient to them, and you pay for the coffee. Now, they're paying for the coffee part. I know you're a grad student. I know you're broke. But you asked, right? You're the one being served here. If this actually happens and you meet them at that place convenient to you, go up and do the triple latte thing, and it's $12, and you go, let me get it. And they go, no, let me get it. And then you have to try 3 times. You go, no, really, I'm doing this thing, And they go, no, let me do it. And you try one more time. And then finally they go, really, I'd much rather do it. Well, thank you very much. Now, and then let's say, well, let me get it. And they go, oh, great, thanks so very much. You don't go, dude, I'm broke. Come on. You have a house and everything. That has been done many times. So that's a real good way to wreck it from this. So just go in there. You're getting fabulous stuff for free. Now, to find this, we're getting to the really important part, right? So again, these conversations are readily havable, and they're a great way to get inside somebody's head, inside their tribe, bounce around. And while you're doing that, by the way, when somebody says, oh, are you looking for a job? What's the answer? No. Not today. Now, are you gaming them? Yes and no. To do this authentically, you need two critical things. The two critical criteria to pull off an information interview legitimately are, number one, genuine curiosity. You have to actually want to know. You can't say, well, Dave said if I had this conversation, you'd give me a job, so I'm not going to talk until you offer me a job. That doesn't work. They'll suss you out in no time. So you have to really want to know. And you have to really get to the place where you're sufficiently convinced about this unicorn hunting model, about this way that communities behave, that you really buy into, look, I'm going to enter the conversation, I'm going to keep banging around this domain, and after I talk to you, I'm going to ask for 3 more referrals and do it again and do it again and do it again, and I'm going to trust, with a sort of an act of faith in humanity, that this will be generative at some point. So today, I am not looking for a job. I am just looking for the story today. More often, the problem actually is they'll go, hey, I'm having a really good time here. I mean, you could work here. We should talk about that. And as soon as you do, if that's the day you want to start talking about a job, that's fine. But boom, you're in decisive land, and now I'm making a decision. I'm going to start treating you with my judging brain, not my collaborative brain. And that has to happen someday, but you better be sure you pick the day you want it to happen, because once it starts, it's not going to go back. So you can get into that prematurely. Yes?
Hi, I'm a PhD student, and the language that I hear a lot is people ask, are you in the job market?
Uh-huh.
And I've been told, always say yes. So someone can always make you offer you a job. So in this scenario, what I just...
Right. You just really be contrary to that, yeah. That's a tricky, so are you on the job market is the question. That's a little trickier because you are, and again, lying doesn't work. I mean, despite the fact you can be elected president and do it all the time, but lying doesn't actually work. Because you're going to meet these people again. I think I'd want to answer that kind of go, well, that's not why I'm here today. Now, by the way, you're grad students. That's just a euphemism for unemployed, okay? I mean, when you're talking to these people, they know you're not staying, you can't live in dorms forever, okay? They know you're unemployed, okay, they know. So all you have to do is say, no, today I'm really looking for this conversation, Well, because we could talk about your career aspirations and kind of go like, I really appreciate you being supportive of that, but all I really have on my mind today is hearing your story. And stick with it, And if they refuse, they got to, like, classic mistake, set up the appointment, oh great, I can't look, the Starbucks, right over by Trester, that's where I usually hang out, I'll see you at 8:35, no problem. By the way, send me your resume before you come over, I want to get a sense of your story, and you go, okay, no, you don't. Half the time this fails, somebody inadvertently sent a resume. When they asked for their resume to get a sense of your story, because they were thinking it's story, not job, they were telling the truth. Problem is, massive pattern matching in the brain of the person you're talking to. Resumes equal candidates. As soon as they see your resume, the judging brain turns on and starts judging everything they read. And when they show, and very often they get called back and go, we really don't have any openings for people like you. Well, where'd coffee go? Dude, I was just looking for coffee. So resist the resume. I don't want to bother you, I'll just bring it with me. It's really not necessary. Frankly, the conversation is about you, not me. You have to go, look, I'm not coming unless you send their resume. Well, okay, send their resume. You do what you can. But the tendency to fall into the job interview rut is huge. There's a massive bias toward that. And it will screw it up because the judging brain is on, not the collaborative brain. So to get that interview, this is the part you guys are really waiting for. You're so excited because that means we have to network. Right? So it's going, oh, great, the networking part. Finally, that's what I came for, is the networking part. I love, so cool to network. I love that. Not even the MBA. Oh, I got one right there. So maybe you feel kind of like this woman, no, not really my thing. Not my thing. I'm not a networking kind of person, kind of sleazy, right? Who thinks networking is a little sleazy? Why? What's wrong with it? Why is it sleazy?
I feel like some people are, well, it's not all of the networking people. Some people are
But the bad ones, yeah.
too excited on trying to network to so many people.
So they're too excited. They're kind of annoying.
People go for quantity over quality.
Quantity, it's just like bang, bang, bang. Like this, they're just kind of hit and run. What else? Yeah. Sometimes inauthentic. Hey, dude, that shirt's great, man. You look fabulous. Yeah, I'm Dave. How are you? We should network. I'll text you. What's that? It's a means to an end. It's about using people, right? Look, you don't know me, you don't owe me squat, I'm just going to pretend to a precision, or pretend to a proximity with you that I don't really have or earn. I'm going to suck something out of you, then I'm going to run away. We need a reframe. You're wrong. There's some people who do that. One of the reasons I think networking gets a bad name is the biggest, brightest, stinkiest networkers are the ones that sound like the archetypes you characterize, who are popular on television and movies, by the way. Networking is just asking for directions. You don't know your way around nanotechnologyville. You literally don't know your way around the Pentagon. You don't know your way around the NIH. You don't know your way around Tenure Town. You don't know your way around Consultingville. Never been there. Anybody here ever give directions to a lost person on campus? Who's ever given directions to a lost person? Great, okay, what's your name, Sue?
Cecilia.
Cecilia. So let's kind of go through this thing. So you give directions. So somebody walks up to you and goes, oh, I can't find Hoover Tower. And you're going, oh my God. The really big thing over there. Yeah, it's a little phallic, but it's right there, You all know that. Okay. Yeah, no. So they ask for it, and then what do you do? They say, oh, I'm lost. I'm looking for the bookstore. And what do you do?
Okay, well, the general idea is you're looking for over there, maybe give some like landmarks to look for.
Okay, so you give them directions. You tell them where to go. Yeah. And then what happens?
Oh, thank you so much, or maybe they ask a follow-up question.
Okay.
And that
So they thank you, maybe clarify, and then what happens?
they go.
They just go. How do you feel? You feel fine?
Glad I helped them.
You're glad?
Yeah.
Bottle of wine, parking pass, nothing? And you feel glad. That's sick. Okay. So Cecilia, let me get this right. So a stranger walks up to you, accosts you in the middle of your busy day, rips geographical information system right out of your brain, hard-earned assets is stolen from your brain, spins on their heels, walks away, nothing, and you feel good. How weird is that? Well, it's called this thing being a human being. It turns out research now shows, and of course it must be true because now we have data, not anecdotes, we have data that demonstrates human beings like being helpful. Who knew? So the people who live in nanotechnologyville or the Pentagon or what have you, those are communities, those are domains of interest. They only grow and stay healthy when people move to their town. When strangers come and they're checking the town out, they get lost all the time. Hey, I can't, do you know, I've never been in Googleville, which is really big, Googlemopolis, and where would I find a product manager? What's that all about? That's just asking for directions. So when you're doing networking, I'm going to actually populate this whole thing really quickly without dragging you through it. Clickology to the nth. Okay, there are two kinds of networking. Outbound and inbound. So outbound is this guy going that way. This is you, look, when I say your target, let's say there's a person you'd like to meet. I really like to talk to somebody who does evaluations of grants at the National Institutes of Health. I have no idea how granting is done. That's kind of interesting to me. Okay, great. How do I find that person? Well, outbound, what you think of as networking is I got to, ask somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows a grant reviewer, right? So I ask my advisor, my advisor asks a colleague asks, somebody in the development office, and boom, I'm talking to the right person. And that 6 degrees of separation thing really does work, and this is really powerful. But it has some disadvantages. Now, it's easy access, it's low threat, because the first person you talk to is always somebody you know. It's not a cold call. It might be slow and it might not. I mean, sometimes you hit it right away, sometimes it takes a bunch of tries. You don't have any control over whether or not this first circle is closely correlated out there. Now, if you're getting a PhD and you're looking for academic track stuff in your field, you're probably already in the lane, because you're already in the domain. The advisor knows everybody. That's fine. But there are places that they don't know. It's highly random, and if you're doing a bunch of things, let's say you're thinking about these multiple domains. Many of you are talking about multiple domains. You want to learn lots of things. At one point, my middle son was concurrently with 3 completely different resumes, all true, looking into economic forensic consulting, business administration in the pro sports world, and the game business. And he's doing tons of information interviewing, and if you're doing it all outbound, these people get tired. You've got contact fatigue risk because you start wearing them out. You know, because I have a couple hundred students a year. I mean, I've got a rule. I don't give referrals to students, you know, because my friends will kill me. Like, Dave, stop it. You know, 1,000 people a year. I don't want to take all these calls. So that's outbound, and it works great. But there's also inbound, and inbound starts like right here. The first move is imagine who is already near where you're trying to go. It does not have to be a powerful person. It has to be an accessible person. And the two attributes I'm looking for are somebody who's near where you're trying to go, and you can probably find and get to cold, meaning without a referral. Example, one of my students years ago was in the film business, in the film field, really wanted to do an interview with this very avant-garde independent filmmaker who is well known to never give interviews and is a recluse. And the student I'm talking to grew up on a farm in Indiana, is not a highly networked person, and is profoundly introverted and really, really, really doesn't want to do this at all. So Dave, can you help me? So we tried to think of, well, who might be near out there? And what you have to do is sort of walk around in the head and the lifestyle of these people. Where do they go? What do they do? What's their life like? Who do they bump into? Who are some people along the way? Ooh, I could get to that person, right? I mean, I'll share a secret with you. We are really hoping to get this book into the hands of the Obama girls. We think we have an access point in the woman that handles the snack cart in the White House. I can't tell you how I know that. But it's true, and if it works, you know, I mean, if they read the book and they like it and they tell mom, if Michelle Obama says, buy this book, that's a really good thing, okay? It's a really good thing. If you're me, you know, it's kind of like Oprah's cool, but Michelle is like, oh, man. Snack cart. So the film student, we thought about, okay, this guy films in Northern California all the time. He loves to do movies in San Francisco. That's great. Hey, you know, when you make movies and you film outside, you like close the street, right? Yeah, okay. So you need a permit. Totally. Where do you get that? City Hall. So he goes to City Hall and he goes to the counter in person, the place where you'd fill out the little form to close the street to make a movie if that's what you're going to do. And he goes to the, you know, the guy behind the counter and says, hey, I'm a student and I'm terrified, and I wonder if you could help me. You know, I'm really, is this the place I would come if I was making a movie and wanted to close the street? And he goes, yeah, we're the guys. And he goes, well, you know, so you probably deal with production companies all the time, right? He goes, yeah. He says, well, you know, do you know anybody in a production company that you interact with on a regular basis who's really nice and kind and would not frighten me? So I could talk to them because I'd like to learn more about their business. And he goes, oh, you want to talk to Ann over at Acme Productions? Can you give me your contact? Sure. Calls Ann. 3 weeks later, he has an interview with the top 2 screenwriters and assistant producers that regularly work with that independent filmmaker who doesn't talk to anybody. So he didn't talk to him, but he got right to the inner circle by walking into City Hall in San Francisco. So the hard part is coming up with where's that counter, where's the snack cart. It doesn't have to be a power player, it's just got to be somebody who knows them. And that's a much more powerful way to do it. And it doesn't take any network to do that. You know? So you say, well, you know, my parents live on a boat in the South China Sea. They never talk to anybody. You know, my advisor is mute and has no friends. I'm screwed. No, you're not. You can do inbound. Okay, so that's available to everybody. Now, when you get the referral, again, you're just asking, you just read this, right? It's really obvious. Asking for a referral is not the same as asking for the conversation. Will you help me find this person? Asking for directions. Cecilia will not be mad at you. If she can't help, she'll say no. Nothing lost, nothing gained. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. But they can say, sure, I know this person. You know, if they don't know, just say, what would you do next if you were, this is, by the way, working empathy for you, rather than, are you sure you don't know somebody? That's an objective question. Well, gosh, okay, I recognize you don't really know anybody that could help me out. If you were me and you were stuck like I am, what would you do next? You know? And then I might go, oh, because I don't really know anybody in politics, you know, at all. I'm not in that scene. I'm not a political person. If I was really you, I guess, well, I'd probably call my buddy Joe. He actually knows Dianne Pelosi, and he used to be a campaign manager. He's a high-tech PR guy now, but I guess I call Joe. See, if you're looking for the referral to the referral to the referral, sometimes you get it with that question.